Hey everyone, it's Gary. Hope you guys are doing well, and welcome to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Let's just double check a few things here and make sure we are all okay. So I think we're okay so far, but just hang on one second. You should be able to see me and my screen, so let me just make sure of that first. Okay. Oops, if I can spell correctly. Can you see my screen and hear my voice? Okay, so you should all have that coming your way. And I'll open up your question box and make sure I can see your responses. Hey Julie, I know you. I've got a email from you about me asking your marker center about the school report. So I'll make. Matter of fact, I'll mention it. Let's go through here and make sure everybody's okay first. Let's just see. Let's see, Julie. We just said hi. Hey, Julie. Oops, hang on one second. Crystal, how you doing, Crystal? Good to see you. Let's see who else. Kieran. Hey, Kieran. Let's see. Okay, seems like everybody's okay so far. So I just want to say welcome aboard to all the new folks. I think last week there were several people that joined from the Central Coast area, Pismo Beach and Paso Roble. I had fun. A few guys that are on from those marker centers, that was a lot of fun. So thank you guys for being such great hosts. And I wish I could spend more time there. It was I love that part of the California. I love that part of the country. I mean, it's just one of my favorite places to be. And great little beach towns, great little restaurants. I stayed at Morro Bay one night. So you guys are very lucky. So when I'm ready to plant myself permanently, I'm hoping you'll be able to tell me where I can find a good realtor. So in any case, welcome aboard everybody, whether you're on East Coast, West Coast, US, Canada, the Bahamas, wherever you're from. I appreciate you being on board here. For all the veterans, I appreciate you guys too. I see we do have some veterans on board here. Let's see, PF, how you doing, PF? My gosh, it's been a long time. Let's see. Hey, Jeff, how you doing, buddy? Hey, Jeff, I got an email from Matt, so I'll be looking at that later this evening. It looks like you guys are making some progress there, so that's pretty good. Cedric, good to see you, buddy. James, good to see. Hey, James, let me know if you tried out that one link. What was it? Been verified. I did try it. It actually gave me a lot of good information. I just was playing around with it, and so I think that was the kind of thing you're looking for, James. In other words, family members that was real strong on providing family members. I thought you could use that. Also, licenses they have, things like that. Another thing too, James, you can do is go to the California Bureau of Licensure. I don't know what the exact name is. I've seen it before. You can go into any industry and go in any category in an industry and find who has licenses. It gives you their name, their address, the whole 9 yards. So you can find out if this person you're looking to buy the property from has licenses in any particular field. That could help you. Also, James, one more thing. Sorry, I'll move on here. There was an email I sent you from an agent in Santa Barbara. She's got some land, or client has land he's looking to sell. It looked like, I mean, I know it's a little bit of a drive from where you are in Pasadena, but man, that's a good area up there, dude. And if you can get some development going there, I think it was a prime spot. So I would, let me know if you got the email. It was probably a week or two ago. That would be great. Appreciate it. So in any case, guys, for those of you watching this in recorded mode, I appreciate you doing that. If you're here live, this is obviously live. Make sure you always, in any case, always look at the email the next day from Beverly, because it does give you important updates on the systems, the platforms, the schedule, so forth and so on. I will give you a heads up, not right away, but it looks like throughout the month we're going to be transitioning to Zoom as our platform for these webinars, guys. It's just, I've had a great relationship with GoToWebinar, not knocking them, but boy, we've had some issues with them over the years. And when it happens, it's like it happens by surprise, and it happened again the other week. Some of you were probably on that, and not a pleasant thing to have happen. So look for the information from Beverly regarding the Zoom. We'll get you all set up. She'll send you the links. You don't have to, quite frankly, your effort will be no different than the effort it is today, but it should be a more stable platform. Okay. So look for that to come. Also, the next 3-day event, if you didn't make the one in Anaheim, is the next one's going to be August 23rd, 24th, 25th in Boston. A great part of the country being that time of year. And what's interesting is I'll be speaking at Harvard at the end of June. Imagine that, Gary Wilson speaking at Harvard. So I'm going to be using that to help My Investor Services promote the 3-day event in Boston. So if you can make it there, a lot of fun, guys. If you haven't been to one and you're an East Coaster and you're wondering why just go to the one in Boston, okay? All right, so enough said. What we're going to do tonight, guys, is talk about foreign investors. It's come up a lot in the last month or so, and I just haven't been able to get to this subject until now. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. Foreign investors, what do they need to know? What do you need to know? And by the way, I do have a future announcement for you for webinars. On the one on May 15th, I have Tom Donnelly coming on. He's in my mastermind group. He's in the one I run. He's also in another one that I'm part of now. He just got promoted. So he's doing pretty good. And part of his doing pretty good has to do with Airbnb. So if you want to learn about Airbnb, guys, be on the one on May 15th, okay? So keep an eye out for that. We'll be promoting that in the next week or two. In any case, so enough for the announcements. What I want to do tonight is talk about foreign investors, okay? Looming large has been for a couple of years now. And if you're in one of the major metro areas, anywhere around a big city, this is a good subject for you, because you're probably noticing in your ownership records how many properties are owned more and more by foreign owners, okay? It's been happening that way for a while, and there are certain reasons for it. But the bottom line is, how can we profit from that? And I'm going to show you that, okay? Let's see, PF's asking, please let us know you'll be very close to me at Harvard U. So PF, just to give you a heads up, I'll be teaching up there starting the end of July. So starting July 29th, PF, I'll be up there for the next 4 weeks teaching all around, Massachusetts. I'll be in New Hampshire and Rhode Island in June, the last week of June. Excuse me, hang on one second, guys. I'm sorry, I'll be in, so the week of June 17th, PF, I'll be up in New Hampshire. The week of June 24th, I'll be in Rhode Island. And then on the weekend of the 28th, 29th, and 30th, I'll be at Harvard. I'm not sure what my time slot's going to be. I've just been notified I'm going to be speaking there. So how about that? So as soon as I know, PF, I'll let you know. It'd be great to see you again. Let's see, Karen, is asking, what was the website you mentioned for licenses? Yeah, tell you what, guys, let's do this real quick. I'm going to switch screens here real quick. Okay, and I'm going to see if I can find this. Actually, I know where I can find it. Hang on one second here. Let's see here. What was his name? Shoot. I had an email. I sent it to somebody. Here it is, David Kumjan. Okay, so David Kumjan. So guys, I just need to find this email, and I'm going to give you the exact link. I did find it before. It's just going to take me a second to find it. So hang on one second here. I got to reduce my screen, and I will locate this for you so you'll have it. Okay. I don't think this is it, but let's find out. That's early on. Okay, let's see here. Maybe this is it right here. That was March 22nd. Okay, that's not it. I just can't remember exactly when we found that. All right, guys, I'll tell you what, let's just go do this. All right, California License Board, okay. Contractor State License Board, okay, that's for contractors. We don't necessarily, although you can use the contractors, by the way, in California, guys, has their own unique license board of licensure, okay. License lookup, let's try that. medical insurance, nursing, engineers, contractor. Okay, the one I found before has, there it is, DCA license search. Okay, ready guys? I'm going to click on this. There it is right up there on the top address bar. Search for all the Californians, write this down. Search.dca, dog, Charlie, Apple, .ca for California.gov, okay? And what you can do is here, you can look in different boards, licensure type, boards and bureaus. So let's just do this. Let's just do, there's a drop-down menu. We were looking for engineers, I think, at one point. Let's see, let's do dental board, okay? License type. Let's do general anesthesia permit, trying to find a dentist license, okay? And we don't need to know name or license number or anything. We just do search and check this out. It's going to take a second because I imagine there's a lot of dentists in California, but what I want to show you is how easy this is. And there you go, guys. Okay. Here's all the dentists. You can scroll down. There's all the A's. You know, Thomas, let's just click up more detail on one of them. Actually, that's cancel current. Let's do this. Current, Maria Elena Akal. And there you go. There's her license number, there's her name, and there's her address, okay? You can see when she got her license, when it's due to expire. So thanks for the question. Who was it asked that question? Hang on one second. That was Kieran. Hi, Kieran. Thank you for doing that. So that's the licensure for every person out here. I just want to tell you this. This exists in every state. I used it in Florida before myself personally. The one in Florida is really good, okay? But every state has this, okay? So in any case, thanks for the question. Let me just see if there's any other questions before we jump into the content. Databases are money. Thanks, Jeff. You're absolutely right. Hey guys, information is vital. Remember, education plus information plus action equals results. I'm here. We have on the My Investment Services website, on their website, on the resource section, under several level membership, there's at the bottom a couple of links you can click on with several different websites you can use for research for US and Canada on people and properties, okay? So in any case, back to the subject for tonight, foreign investors, right? Everybody get ready to take notes and ask questions. First things first is this. Let's say you're approached by a foreign investor, and if it hasn't happened already, when you start working with investors, you're going to be approached by someone who's from a foreign country. Okay? It's just going to happen, right? Now, initially, let me just give you some background here. At least my experience has been this. Typically, they'll start off slow, though they're not going to just dump a whole bunch of money in your lap and say, go to town. For example, we have some students in Alabama who had made an arrangement with an investor from China to buy a property about $200,000. You know, not too big a deal, but good enough. And they did such a good job. He said, "Well, I have other people, friends and relatives in China who want to invest here in the United States, and for some reason they like that part of the country. They like Birmingham and that whole part of the Alabama. There's Huntsville is up to the north. Birmingham is in the middle of the state. Gulf Shores is down towards the bottom of the state, right on the Gulf of Mexico. Several good places in there. Some great college towns too. So here's what happened. Within a matter of months, this guy is now presenting them with $20 million, collectively $20 million to invest. So the point I'm trying to make here is this: you know, do your best, give your best effort, and you'll get rewarded. So that's a good example of what I mean by that. So leading to the subject, what I'm getting at is this: you want to find out what their intentions are, what are their goals for the property. If they just want to buy their own home to live in, that's one thing. Another very common example is this: we love bringing in foreign students into our colleges and universities. This is true in Canada too, by the way. Okay, and a lot of times what their families will do, the parents, they'll buy a property near the campus for their children to live in. Instead of putting them in student housing, they'll buy a property and let the student, their child, live in the house. And I've seen this a lot too. One of the carrots they dangle in front of them is this, that when that student graduates, guess what they get? Man, they get the house as a graduation gift. How about that? But if not, the family will probably keep the house because it's such a good rental. It's in a college town. And you've known me enough by now, guys. You know I like having rentals around colleges and universities and hospital systems, okay? But the thing is this is, even if they did sell it 4 years later, you've now got two commissions, one when they bought it and one when they sold it. And maybe they'll have you manage that property for them if they rent out the other rooms, which is very common. Their student, their child will live in one bedroom, they'll rent out the other 3 bedrooms, okay? Just an example. You'll find that foreign investors generally will like the bigger areas. That example in Alabama was kind of unique, at least from my experience. Usually they'll like the bigger metro areas, okay? But the point is sometimes they're looking for larger multi-units. And I'll give you an example. We have a student right now in the Calabasas Market Center. His dad wants to invest in the States. He's living in Israel, and he's got a couple of $1 million. And he's right now just wants to stay in California so his son can keep an eye on things. Although I've been trying to encourage him to persuade his dad to invest in other areas, like Texas, for example, Michigan, and places like that. The point is this, though. Find out what their intention is. What is their objective for the home? Because that's going to dictate a lot of your role. Okay. So first thing is to identify what the purpose is. They're looking for cash flow, vacation home, properties for their children. There it is right there. Home for your children to attend college in the States. By the way, this document was written for the foreign investor. Okay. So you guys are kind of getting the inside scoop. That's the first step. First thing, and the second thing is this is, right now you're probably thinking, well, you're not the expert working with foreign investors. And most people aren't when they first start up. I wasn't either. But you definitely want to learn. So one of the things you want to learn is learn to educate the investor too. Help them understand how things work in the United States, or in the case of Canada, okay? And I will tell you, what we experience here in the US and Canada, as far as real estate brokerage goes, is typically not what you're going to find elsewhere around the world, guys. There are countries where they literally don't even have real estate companies. I mean, it's just everybody's operating individually, independently on their own. Anybody can say, well, I'll help you sell your property. I'm a real estate agent. But they may not have a license. They may never have gone to school to become an agent. And they maybe don't even have an office. I mean, this is kind of what you see a lot of places around the world. And yet they can, of course, command a commission on the sale of a property should they actually result in a sale. So just bear in mind that in other countries, they're not used to the way we do things here in US and Canada as far as real estate brokerage goes, okay? In some countries they are. Any country that's basically an English-speaking based country usually has similar laws. That's going to be Australia, New Zealand, of course, England, Ireland, Scotland. Of course, I mentioned Canada. So those countries that are use the English language predominantly typically have very similar laws, so you'll see similar brokerage structures there. But in countries that don't, just be prepared. Like South America, for example, parts of Africa. I mean, there's even parts of Europe. They'll have different versions. So a lot of places in Europe, they'll have like what we call boutique real estate brokerage companies, and the buyer will often pay the agent representing them to drive them around looking at properties. That's a typical thing you see in other countries, okay? So just be aware of that. And, there's all kinds of free books you can give people on buying properties in the United States, okay? So that's the second thing, right? Third thing is this is where you come in. When I speak to investors, typically, like one of my first speaking assignments years ago was in Montreal, and which is mainly French-speaking Canada. It's in the province of Quebec, and people were there from all over, okay? And they were asked a lot of questions, and what I would always direct them to do is this: is even though real estate investing can be considered a global affair, it is today. The point of execution, the point of the transaction is definitely local. This is where you come in. So one of the things I encourage you to do is if you speak a second language, if you speak English and any other language, and chances are some of you English is your second language. My gosh, capitalize on that, guys. I mean, take advantage of it. Put it on your business cards, put it in your brochures, your pamphlets, your bifolds, your trifolds. Make sure you let people know that you're fluent. You speak whatever language you speak, okay? And I'll give you another tip here if you want to write this down, particularly if you're already working with investors from other countries, you can capitalize on that further by advertising yourself in what we call Stars and Stripes magazine. It's a military publication in the U.S. that is for the branches, the 4 major branches of the military, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. Okay, a lot of our service members are overseas, and one of the things they do to stay in connection is through Stars and Stripes magazine. I was in Stars and Stripes magazine as an infant because I was born. My first 2 hours of my life were spent in the helicopter flying over Bavaria, Germany. So I was written up in Stars and Stripes magazine. In any case, the point is this: I used to advertise in Stars and Stripes, not as an infant, but when I had my license, living in Tidewater, Virginia, where there's Norfolk Naval Base, Fort Eustis Army Base, Langley Air Force Base. I mean, my gosh, the place was loaded with military, and I started getting calls randomly out of the blue from other agents in other parts of the country and the world saying, hey, I've got a client moving there. Can you help him out? Okay. Well, I started advertising in Stars and Stripes magazine, and here's what I want you to write down is, don't just do like a typical business card ad. Like a lot of agents, I've seen them literally, their ad in the magazine is like their business card. I'm like, don't do that. Specialize yourself. Say, look, I specialize in working with military investors from around the world. Believe me, you're going to get a lot more phone calls from that than you will just saying, hey, I'm ABR, I'm CRS, I'm number one, blah, 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 blah. That's what everybody's saying. You want to say something different. If you've been through the training, guys, through investor agent training, you're certified. Investor agent, you're certified to work with them. Point that out. Tell them you specialize working with military investors from around the world, and your phone will ring more. So most of you live somewhere around a military base. My gosh, especially here in California. So take advantage of that. And back to the original point here, if you speak a second language, take advantage of it. Put that in your promotional material, okay? Okay, now financing. Here's where a lot of people start to stumble. Foreigners can definitely buy properties in the United States, okay? If they're getting financing, a lot of people wonder, well, how do they get financing? Well, here's how you do it. The banks who participate in foreign loans typically require a larger down payment, often 35%. It says it right here, 30 to 40%. They also require the borrower, the buyer, to keep on deposit a large sum of money. They call that a reserve. But quite frankly, it's often around $100,000. This is what I've seen. Okay, that's protection for the bank. So the bank, number one, has a less risky position on the property. They're only financing 65%, not 80% or 90%, and they know that the borrower, the person who's going to own the property, has money in reserves to take care of. Sorry, guys, to take care of things that may pop up, like a new roof, a fire, or what have you. Okay, a flood. I mean, I've seen it all. So, two main things are this. Not every bank is going to participate in this, okay? You have to actually go online and you can Google and see what banks participate in foreign loans. I can tell you Barclays Bank is actually a foreign bank, and they actually do that. TD out of Toronto, it's called, TD stands for Toronto Dominion. A lot of you here in the States, you probably noticed TD is popping up everywhere. They're growing like crazy. They're making their move and they're doing it fast. So TD Bank's Canadian bank, Barclays is a British bank, but American banks too. Chase used to do it. Bank of America used to do it. I don't remember Wells Fargo specifically making foreign loans, but Chase, Citi, Bank of America, those are the three biggies. Typically there'll be bigger banks, but just Google, you can find out who's participating in foreign loans and share that information with your clients. Another thing about foreign loans, at least here in the States, I'm not sure about Canada, they typically will have what's called limits, or loans to one limits. Loans to one ratio typically refers to how much a bank can lend to any one individual based on that bank's capitalization rate. What it has to refer to here is, with a foreign investor, most banks, even though they may have a loans to one ratio of 10 million or 100 million, they typically won't loan any more than 1 to 2 million to any one foreign individual. Okay, so you want to keep that in mind, and they'll tell you, the banks will tell you, what their limitations are. It's published information. Okay. Also be aware that of certain cultural things. Actually, it has it right here. I've got a lot of friends who are Muslim, students who are Muslim, and some of them, they borrow just like everybody else, but some of them don't borrow at all because it's considered a violation of their Islamic law, for example. So they don't want to borrow, and they won't borrow. Okay. So you have to be aware of that, which leads to the next thing, which is, can they pay cash? The answer is absolutely yes. That'll come up later on here. You can also, by the way, this link, it's not live here. You can go to any number of websites, and there's all kinds of, here, I'll just show you. Let me just do this. Let's go here. Let's type in a mortgage calculator. Okay. Let's hit the enter key. Sorry, I was looking for one I've used to use in the past, but mortgagecalculator.org. A lot of these times, bankrate.com. A lot of times you can go in here and calculate mortgage rates, but in here there'll be some verbiage about, or you can have like a help bar. Like, let's just see if there's one up here. Hang on one second. Let's go back up to the top. Oops, I thought I was going to see a help bar there. Free credit report. Here you go, search. Here we go, loans, loan types: personal loan, auto loan, debt, student loan, medical, bad loans. Calculators get advice, refinancing, foreign. Let's just type in foreign. Let's see if anything pops up here on Bankrate. No foreign transaction fees. That's not what we're looking for. But let's see, foreign borrowers. Let's try that. Yeah, it's just keying off the word foreign. But in any case, the point is this: is a lot of times these mortgage calculator websites. Here, how foreigners buy homes in the U.S. Bankrate.com. So you can click on that, guys. Oftentimes they'll recommend banks, right? Certain banks that that are known for making loans to foreigners. So I just clicked on that just to see if there's anything popping up here. Oops. Property taxes. Let's see. Insurance, property taxes. More on buying homes. Shop for 30-year mortgage, real estate advice. Tips for foreign home buyer. Foreigners can buy U.S. homes easily. In case, what I was looking for is get recommendation on banks that make loans to foreigners. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because we got a lot to cover. But I just want to show you how you can find this stuff out. Very easy. All right, so back to this. Let's go back to where we were. Here's some typical questions you'll get from foreigners buying properties in the States. Do I need to become a citizen to buy a home in the U.S.? The answer is no. But you do need what's called an individual tax ID number, an ITIN, I-T-I-N, individual tax ID number. So a foreign purchaser doesn't have to have a tax, it doesn't have to have be a citizen or even have a green card, but do have to have an individual tax ID. Okay. What's interesting is foreigners in the States who are considered undocumented literally can't pay taxes traditionally. What they have to do is set up a business. I know people who have done that. DACA people who are part of the DACA group, the Dreamers. In order to be more fully immersed in the U.S. economy, they do want to pay taxes. They do pay taxes, and they do it. They set up a company so they can get a tax ID and then pay taxes through that. They're a whole different subject altogether. But the point is this: is there's a form they have to give. It used to be called a W-7. It's in here somewhere. W7. Here we go. Let's see. Issued by, of course, the IRS issues these numbers. You can go directly to the IRS and get a number. Any one of us can do that. I've done it dozens of times setting up new LLCs. You can get a new tax ID. You have to fill out Form W7. They also have a Spanish version of that. And that's how your client can get an ITIN so that they can go forward buying a property, getting loans, filling out sales agreements, the whole 9 yards, okay? So in any case, here's what we're telling them they should expect for their first meeting from you is, and I want to find out what your thoughts are on that. So here's the deal. Matter of fact, let's do a quick pause here and check for questions. Hang on 1 second here. Let's see. This is from Crystal. Okay. Will we get that info that you're scrolling through? Yeah. So Crystal, this is actually on. It's on the My Investor Services website, silver level members area again, in the resource section. I think it's attached to one of the webinars. But regardless, Beverly has this. I'll make sure she has it. So tomorrow, Crystal, when the recording comes out in the email, the follow-up email, we'll make sure this is in there for you. Okay. So thank you for bringing it up. Okay. So what I want to ask you guys is this: let's say you're contacted by someone who is a foreigner and wants to buy a property here in the United States. So just so far, what kind of things do you think you can tell them, or should you share with them, or questions you should ask them? So go ahead and type in what you think it is. There's several things I can think of right now. We just went over a couple of them, so I kind of gave you the answers. But what can you do to prepare yourself for them, right? What can you do to prepare yourself for them? Well, number one is I'd make sure you let them know that you're trained to work with investors, okay? You also have some specific information on working with foreign investors in the way of this document. You've done some Google searches to find out what banks are making loans to foreigners right now, and what are some of the federal and state requirements. Okay, those are some things. Let's just see what answers we got here. Julie's saying, yeah, do they have cash? That's a good one, Julie. You're absolutely right. You always want to find out. So as part of the interview process, guys, once you've established rapport, always make sure you can help them determine timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, and ability. Those 5 things, right? Okay. I'll hold my hand up here. 5 things: timing, motivation, readiness, willingness, and ability. Okay. Ability has to do with the financial end of things. So when you're doing that, you want to ask them, what do you have in savings? What do you have available? Have you had your credit score? Anybody in the world can have their credit report run on them. They can find out, they can determine their credit score. It's not just for folks in the US and Canada, okay? Anybody can get a credit score, so you want to find that out. And if they have an available line of credit, or they're already able to borrow money now, okay? Because maybe they've already contacted a stateside lender or one of the international lenders, like I mentioned, Barclays and TD Bank. And they've already started the loan process here. You just want to find that stuff out, guys, right up front. And also remember the very top here, let's go back to the top. You want to find out right off the bat, what is the intended use of the property, okay? First thing you ask them. You could ask them what they know if they ever bought a property here. That has to do with section number 2. So you'll have an idea of how much education you might need to provide for them or help them get the education, okay? And then, financing, we talked about that, okay? But here's the thing. You want to be prepared, just like anything else, any client. It's just these folks are from a foreign country, okay? Do they need a real estate attorney? Not necessarily. I mean, they can. If they're buying a 100-unit building, yeah, they probably want an attorney who specializes working with foreigners, and there are. And by the way, guys, write this down. There are not only attorneys who specialize working with foreign entities, foreign owners of properties here in the States and Canada, but also there are tax preparers, there are tax accountants who specialize working with foreigners who own property here in the States, where they're married to foreigners. Like me, that's my situation. My tax accountant, I've had him for over 20 years. My gosh, 22 years. And thank goodness, I didn't even know this till years later when I was going to get married to a foreigner. This is going back several years. That his wife, that my accountant's wife, actually specialized working with people like me who either own properties in a foreign name or their spouses were foreigners. So in any case, kind of interesting there, you know, the things you find out about people years later. So in any case, that's a few things you should bring up. Let me go back to the questions here because I saw some more questions coming in. This is from, yeah, Julie's saying, what type of property would you recommend we do this is PF. Hang on, PF, 1 second. Would you recommend we do a Google Hangout or Zoom web call to have face-to-face interaction with international clients? I think that's actually a really good idea, PF. You can do Google Hangout, Skype, Zoom. I mean, I've got all of those myself, and I use them for different purposes. So right now, you should be able to see my mugshot on here talking. It's through GoToWebinar. In your situation, just use Skype or Google Hangout. You can get a really inexpensive version of Zoom too. I have the pro version, but that way they can see you, and it does help develop trust. Okay. So in any case, back to the attorney. I think that if they're buying anything other than like single family or duplex or triplex or fourplex, if they're buying something larger, they probably want an attorney. But remember, whoever does the settlement on the closing typically is an attorney or has an attorney on retainer. That's what I used to do. I used to own a title company, and I'm not an attorney, but I hired an attorney, paid him a retainer to represent the company and represent the clients of the company. And it worked out great for him, worked out great for me. Okay. And he was pretty sharp and he knew all about foreign investors. Okay. Let's see, is there a type of property that they can't buy in the United States? Well, the answer is typically no. They can buy anything they want, single families, multi-unit homes, you know, whatever. However, in certain housing communities, those housing communities, their directors, board of directors, if you want to call it, or association, sometimes will have restrictions. So let me just go over that here real quick here. They're not violating any type of discrimination rules. What they might say is, well, you know, we're okay with foreign ownership. However, they have to, you know, the assets have to be kept in the U.S. They have to use cash. I've seen things like that before. There's usually not I've never seen one actually flat out just prohibit foreign ownership. I've never actually seen that. Even it's mentioned here, I've just not seen it myself. Okay, but they generally do require source of income to be inside the United States. Okay, they want to protect themselves, right? Should something go wrong. Okay, should they purchase a property in their own name? Well, the reality is it could be, but you know, it could be they want to buy in an entity, which I do recommend. So if it's their own property, they're going to live in themselves. Yes, it can be in their own name. But my thing is this: when it comes to investing, every investment property, you know, should be an LLC. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a tax accountant, but I use simple LLCs to own my properties. Okay. Now, back to this. Remember, anybody can set up a entity in the U.S. because anybody can get a tax ID, an individual tax ID. Okay, so in any case, it goes back to asking them what their motivation is, what their intention is for the property. All right. So in any case, back to this: can they pay cash for property? Obviously, the answer is yes. Just remember, there's a process in banking called large cash reporting. When I was in banking years ago, and I was working on mergers and acquisitions, and I was managing several different applications, business applications, one of them happened to be large cash reporting. And anytime there's anything greater than $10,000, it has to be reported, LCR. So that's really the only restriction I'm aware of. It's not even a restriction, it's just a requirement. It's a reporting requirement. But in any case, back to this, are there specific states in which foreign buyers should look for properties? Well, you know, again, it's up to the individual. I will tell you this, though. There's federal law and there's state law. In Canada, it's federal law, provincial law, okay? Then you have local law. In addition to federal regulations when it comes to foreign ownership, the individual states and provinces could also have their own rules and regulations when it comes to foreign ownership. They can't conflict with the federal law, but it can be in addition to the federal law. So you want to keep that in mind, guys, is every state can be different, and a lot of states are definitely different. Just look at the landlord-tenant law, state by state, and you'll see there's some similarities, but there's a lot of things that are different from state to state. Sometimes some of those things are surprising. Okay, but the point is this: there's federal law and state law, and you have to understand both in whatever state you're in, or if you're in a Canadian province, federal law and also provincial law. Now, as far as where they want to buy, I mean, you can see right here, historically, the greatest percentage of foreign ownership has been in Florida, followed by California, followed by Arizona and Texas. Okay, you would think New York would be up there. New York has crept up over the years. This data is a little bit dated now, but the point is foreign investors, sometimes their motivations are different than those who live here in the country. Okay, everybody wants to make money, but you'll notice that foreign investors who do like to buy a lot of properties, it's been my experience that they generally focus on the larger metro areas. They're not interested in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Some of them are. I mean, there are exceptions, like the example I gave you earlier, the investor from China who's investing in Alabama. I mean, Birmingham's decent size, but it's nothing like Dallas or Houston or Chicago, New York or San Francisco or LA or Atlanta. But the point is there are definitely states, if your name of the game is cash flow, you might want to be looking at Michigan and parts of Florida, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, places like that. But if you're looking more for capital appreciation, that's why they like the bigger cities. They know they can go to New York and invest in Manhattan. They can invest in and around the greater LA Metroplex, in and around the Bay Area, Toronto, Vancouver, those areas. You just look at the prices there. Clearly, they've gone up way more than the other areas, and they still are. Okay, so in any case, two sides of that question there. The answer is two-sided. Number one is, where do they want to be if they're buying for themselves personally, or their child going to college here, or are they strictly investing, and what's their game? Is it capital appreciation, or is it cash flow, or is it some combination thereof? And that'll help you determine what states they should be in. If it's not your state, then you can do a referral or a referral fee. Okay. Let's see. Do they have to travel to the U.S. for closing? Of course they don't, but it might be a good idea, at least on the first one. The more they can learn, guys, as your clients, the better clients are going to be for you. Okay. So you definitely want to help them get educated. But no, they do not have. None of us have to go to closings. In fact, I can tell you, I haven't gone to a closing in years. All right. For my own personal properties, I stopped going to closings decades ago. Don't have to. It's not necessary. Okay. Realtors feel good about it because they actually walk away with a check or something, but it's not necessary. Okay, there are additional fees that they're going to be paying at the closing. I'm not aware of anything over and above the typical cost for buyers and sellers of real estate that they're already going to have. In other words, I don't believe there will be other fees involved for the foreign investors. There could be when it comes to the lending part of the business. Okay, when it comes to the actual purchase part, they're not required. There's no other closing cost fees or title transfer fees or anything like fees that are greater than anybody else buying properties in the States. Now, there are other things going on tax-wise that you need to be aware of. Okay, the U.S. typically has a 10% tax on property, anything sold in the U.S. From a foreign entity. Okay, I think Canada does the same thing. Hang on one second. But U.S. has gotten very strict over the years. I'll give an example here. In Canada, Canada's people who live in Canada, Canadian residents, only pay money on taxes on income they've earned in Canada if they're a resident of Canada. They don't have to be a citizen, they just have to be a resident. Okay. Now, if you're making money in Canada and you're not a resident, you gotta have a permit to do that. You gotta have a visa, a work visa to do that. Okay. So I'm not saying you're off the hook if you're not Canadian. But the point is that if you make money in the U.S., they're not going to tax you on it. Okay. The U.S., on the other hand, has what's called global taxation. If you're a U.S. citizen, they're going to tax you on money you make anywhere in the world. Just know that. Okay. Now, if you're not a U.S. citizen, okay, then you're going to pay, you're basically paying taxes based on the country's laws where you live in. But remember, if you make money in the US, they are definitely going to tax you. Doesn't, if you're whether you're a citizen or not. So I can tell you a lot of people, US citizens who are married to foreigners, what they'll do is they'll do what's called filing married, but married but filing separately. That's what they do. Okay, I used to do that, in fact, and that way the U.S. citizen only pays taxes on the money they made in the U.S. Okay, and wherever their spouse is from, if they, as long as they don't make money in the U.S., then if married filing separately means you don't have to claim their income and pay taxes on their income wherever they made it, France, Germany, Canada, whatever. Okay. In any case, back to this. So foreign investors, yes, are required to pay taxes on money they make in the States, and if they don't, the IRS is going to impose a 30% tax rate on their gross revenue received, which is pretty stiff. Okay, this is basic IRS code, by the way. This has been in it for years. Okay, so in any case, let's say you have rental properties in. Think about that. That could be catastrophic if you got to pay taxes to the tune of 30% of your gross rents coming in. Your profit margin may only be 10%. In other words, if you own a property and you got $10,000 coming in and $9,000 going out in the form of interest, taxes, principal payments on your mortgage, insurance, maintenance, repairs, utilities, all kinds of stuff happens, and you're being forced to fork over 30% of your gross, you're going to be negative. That's why it's important to make sure your foreign investors know, guys, that they make money in the States, they're going to have to pay taxes on it. Now, there's often treaties between the different countries. So it's called reciprocation. And let's say your home government is taxing you at a greater rate than the U.S. is, or a lesser rate. Let's use that example. The U.S. only tax you on the difference, but typically, just plan on paying taxes if you're a foreign entity owning properties here in the States and that are making money. Okay, and the reason I say that is we don't have treaties with every country in the world. That's the next thing. Foreign Investment in Real Estate Tax Act of 1980, been out there for a long time. All right, this authorizes the government to withhold tax when a property is sold, exchanged, or gifted, transferred, or liquidated by a foreigner. Internal Revenue Service takes 10% of the proceeds, and the state government can also take a percentage. Remember, I said state rules are separate from the federal rules. They just can't conflict, but they can be in addition to. So there you go, right there. I know a lot of Canadians who invest here in the States, and yeah, they got to pay 10%. They call it the 10% hit. Okay, they're already paying money, they're already paying taxes, but now they got to pay another 10%. So in any case, guys, that's pretty much it. Let me go back here and check for questions. Let's see here. I think we're caught up on questions, guys. How about that? When we actually finished 10 minutes early here tonight. Any case, hey guys, if you don't have questions, that's pretty much the finite subject of working with foreigners. I'll make sure Beverly has this. I think she already does. She'll get that to you. What I thought we would do next week, because this has popped up a lot too, is people are now hiring virtual assistants. So on Monday the 6th is our next webinar. How about if we cover how do you actually hire a virtual assistant? Typically, like mine is in the Philippines. Some are in India, some are, who knows where they are. But is that something you guys would like to cover? If you have something else you want me to cover, please let me know in advance. Don't surprise me the night of the webinar. I don't mind taking questions on the fly, of course. But if there's a subject you want to delve into, like foreign investors, I can prepare for it. Okay, we can have a document prepared just like this to go over that you guys can get. So in any case, the reason I mentioned virtual assistants is just because it's popped up a lot, and I had a feeling it's going to come up as a subject, so might as well be preemptive here and see if you guys want to cover it. And the answers are coming back yes. Let's cover VAs. All right, well, listen, everybody. I appreciate your participation tonight. God bless you and your families. We will see you next week again. That's the 6th. Monday, I'll be in, where will I be? I'll be in Olympia. How about that? Olympia, Washington. And it'll be West Coast time, so it'll be 7 p.m. for the East Coasters, 4 p.m. for the West Coasters. and everybody in between, you can figure that out. But in any case, I appreciate your participation. Look forward to seeing you next week. In the meantime, have an awesome rest of the week, a great weekend. God bless you and your families, and we will see you next time. Okay, bye-bye.